Is the time to do it.
Changes to the law next month mean that if you're separated but not yet divorced, your ex-partner could end up inheriting more of your assets than your children. We'll be talking about this in just a minute, but first we asked some of you whether you've got around to writing a will.
I haven't written a will yet. We're definitely thinking about it. We just bought a house, so we really need to.
I haven't, and I should, because I've got 2 children. So that's really bad.
I live at home with my mum and dad at the minute, so I haven't really got anything to give away, really, no.
If I die, the problem really lies with the people who survive me. And I wouldn't want them to deal with all the repercussions of passing away.
One of the reasons why I haven't done my will because I don't have enough money in my bank account yet.
There's many families now that are divorced and remarried, and so you've got lots of different children from different marriages, perhaps.
I don't really question my immortality just yet. I'll wait till I'm 30 to do that.
I'm going to spend it all for myself before I go.
That's the attitude. I'm going to spend it all myself. We've been talking here this morning that we haven't done wills.
Neither of us have a will,
yeah.
no. Fairly typical, I imagine.
Yeah, I think it is. I think a lot of people forget about it. Let's talk further. We're joined by Rolalend Kent, who's a consumer rights specialist, and by Jane Whitfield, who's chair of the Law Society's Wills and Equity Committee. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Jane, if I could start with you. This law change that comes into effect in the next couple of days, it's meant to make things easier for married couples and civil partners, isn't it? It's
That's
not
right.
meant to be a problem. Just explain, what's the hope with this?
Well, the hope is that the new law will help married couples, civil partners, if their partner dies without making a will, then they can inherit and the money goes to the family in the way that they intend.
But we're realising that if a couple are separated, not yet divorced, what could happen if there's no will?
Well, the new changes are that there's going to be a fixed sum of money going to the partner, even if they're separated, and then the rest is divided in half, and the partner gets 1/2 of that as well. So they'll end up with inheriting more than the children.
What do you think of that, Ros?
Well, it's all. I'm basically coming from an advice guide perspective and looking at what else is available for people, you know, not just in terms of what the will is encompassing, but also in terms of what you can do in terms of getting a will. So,
and do you find most people aren't prepared?
Most people are not prepared, definitely, because it's something people want to put off, or they just don't know where to go to, or they're scared of the costs because everyone thinks they must go to a solicitor, you know, and there's all sorts of complications, but there are other options.
And do you end up having to have, in your job, quite awkward conversations with people where they have to really be honest and say absolutely what they want to happen? Can that cause a little bit of tension?
It can, because obviously there'll be family disputes and there will be delicate situations that people, you know, that will be troublesome. But that's why getting it on paper and getting it all properly done in a proper legal will before you die will stop any wrangling over the will after you're dead and causing a lot of grief for your family.
Jane, I mean, the issue is that, you know, I think people sometimes don't want to think about dying, do they? They want to talk about dying. So that puts people off putting wills together as well. And do you want to sit there with your partner, writing a will, working out how you're going to split stuff up if you separate? Again, that's another big emotional hurdle, isn't it?
That's right, yes.
So how do you get around that? How would you persuade me to go ahead with a will in that situation?
Partly, well, now is a really good time to think about it because the law is changing, and if you don't make a will, then the consequences can be really horrible for your family and leaves an emotional and a financial mess.
And what about for people who say, do you know what, I haven't got that much, I'm not leaving that much behind, you know, I haven't got investments or savings. What would your advice to them be?
I think it's surprising how much you do have if you actually sit and think about it. Most people, if you have children, you probably own your own home, and that has to go somewhere, and you need to provide for your children as well.
And it's not just about the money and the assets that you've got, it is also about children. If your children are young, you know, in the will you can say who you want to take custody of the children if both of you were to die, which would be an unfortunate circumstance, but those kind of things can all be set out to put everyone's mind at rest.
And it is one of those conversations that people just don't want to have, you know, what would happen to your children in the event?
It's a really hard one, and it can cause, you know, people may want the children, or, you know, giving who do you give the children to? And
in situations that you may have come across where this has happened, where children have been, you know, parents have died, and there is no will, you know, what's the effect on the children? Obviously, it's a further complication.
Well, there can be quite a big argument about who the children live with, who become responsible for them, and who looks after the money to care for them once the parents are no longer here.
Because in your will at the moment, you could appoint a trustee to look after the money that would be left to your children if they're very young. And also it will be, you know, something for the children, so if they do lose you, they're not suddenly then not knowing where they're going, or the decision's given to them. They might be 8, 9 years old. Who do you want to go with? It's a terrible decision.
Do you need a lawyer? Does a lawyer have to oversee? I know you'll say yes, but I mean, that's an issue. I remember hearing people say you could just scribble it on a piece of paper and it's legally binding.
It's not quite that simple, but in theory you don't need a lawyer. If your affairs are simple, then you can do it yourself. Scribbling it on a bit of paper might not be advisable, but you can buy DIY will kits for £10 from, you know, stationers or online, and you can do those on your own. But the note of caution is they are for simple things. And there are other options as well, sort of legally based, cheaper options if you know, solicitor isn't quite, you're scared of the costs of a solicitor.
Okay.
Thank you both very much indeed. I know you're coming out to talk to us, I think, after 9:30, so we'll talk to you again soon.
Great.
Thank
And
you.
if you've got any questions that affect you or any issues you've had that you're aware of that you're prepared to share with us, get in touch in the normal way, please, this morning. That could be useful.
Yeah. And in just a few moments' time, we're going to be talking to the photographer in Venice who is covering George Clooney's wedding. Do stay with us. The headlines are coming up.
See you in a sec.